Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Live. The Derek McInnes revolution, shall we say, is well underway. Rangers played their first pre-season friendly. Staff are returning to the football club. And lots of transfer chatter, and who better to have on than the original OG himself. Kenny, how are you, mate? You well?
I'm very well, thank you, Stephen. Hope you are too. And playing tricks on me before we come on and everything, mate. Well done, you.
I amused myself by I let Kenny on and pretended that I was just pointing to my ear. I can't hear you, mate. So Kenny was fiddling about with his wires and all that, much to my amusement, because I am a child. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to have to start the show with some bad news, but over the weekend, I lost my Uncle John Thompson, from a Drawson. My Uncle John was a very big Rangers fan, member of the Orange Lodge. Just a fantastic man, a very good uncle to me, father to Mark, Heather, and Marion. My late mum's brother, and we lost him over the weekend. So very sad for the family. Especially sad to Mark, who I'm quite close to, who's my cousin, having lost his dad. We're a big Rangers family, and John took the bus all the way to Seville, the supporters bus. So he's plenty of story of his life supporting Rangers, but that was one of his. Sad news to start the show with, unfortunately. Kenny, how was your weekend, mate? I didn't tell you that I was going to do that, but you didn't know that news. But I didn't want to make it too negative. But my Uncle John was a great guy, really big Rangers man, and sad news over the weekend. But I do also have an amusing story to tell you, which I will in a minute. But how was your weekend?
It was all right, mate. Very quiet. Just watched a bit of football, and it was clearly not as traumatic as yours. I'm sorry to hear that. And my thoughts and wishes with Harry and everybody else, mate. That's disappointing to hear. Sorry to hear that, don't you, mate?
It's never nice, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just one of these things, isn't it? So I'll tell a funnier story. Pamela and I went to a baby shower yesterday, right? And we went to the location of where it was, and we went in and kind of sat down. And I was like, Pamela said, I don't recognise anybody. So she started to scroll the chat, and we realised that they had moved the venue. So we were at just some random people's baby shower, and they'd moved it to Rutherglen. It was in a place called the Sportsman Bar in Rutherglen, and we were over just quite close to Ibrox. So we bar just quite close to Ibrox, and we were at the wrong baby shower, so that caused us a great deal of amusement. So we travelled all the way to Rutherglen for the proper baby shower. Of course, I didn't know anybody, so I didn't know I wasn't in the wrong place, but much amusement was had. That's what happens when you archive chats and don't keep up to date and things like that. But Kenny, Rangers did play their first pre-season game on Saturday, behind closed doors on Saturday morning. Raith Rovers, it was a 5-1 victory. We don't know much about it. I can tell you from Rangers Review report, bits and pieces from it. Rangers were obviously without Ivan Pandur, Lawrence Shankland, Finlay Curtis, John Suter, Liam Kelly, Tello Asgard, who's in a rare old chance with Norway, by the way. So it was Ryden Maguire in goal, Paul Nsio, Ben Godfrey, Xander Hutton, and Tour Romans at the back. Ollie Antman, Dan Neal, Mo Diamandi, and Lyle Cameron played in the midfield four, with Bojan Majowski playing just behind Yusuf Chermiti. It was 45 minutes each. Rangers 2-0 up at the break. Goals coming from Cameron and Romans. Game finished 5-1. Second half strikes from Ross McCrory, Nadeem Bayrami, Ryan Nadiri, and Raith. Got a late consolation goal from the penalty spot. Callum Adamson, who was at loan Adamson at Alloa last year, featured, as did Dujon Sterling. Jerry Gassami, Chukwani also played in the 11 that was completely changed for the interval. We don't know much else about the game, other than what we've said there. What I will say, Kenny, is it's a bounce game. It means very little. But this time last season, in our first bounce game, TNS of Wales beat us 1-0 under Russell Martin. And I've always long spoke to you about pre-season can set the tone and getting into habits and things like that. That was a habit that we never really shook off under Russell Martin. This time we've scored a few goals. It means very little. It's a bounce game, but it's all good for confidence and starting off in the right way and getting into good habits.
Yeah, exactly. It's about getting minutes into the legs. That they'll have had a really hard first week, and it's just about kicking a ball about, Stevie. But you're right in that sense that you've got to look at trying to instill, if you're Derek McInnes here, instill the way you want to play, get your message across. And I would suggest that it's just one of those that they'll take it all with a pinch of salt. They'll be happy that they've scored some goals and they'll just get more work into the legs, mate. I think that's all that you're really going to do. It is that simple. You want to make sure you are good to go when the first whistle kicks. You know, when the first whistle blows up at Dundee United in what was that, like 3 or 4 weeks' time now. So it's always nice to see that they're back kicking a ball about, though. It's kind of it begins to feel like you're moving forward. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and as I said, it's not like we can know much about the show, about the performance, rather, about the show. We do know everything about the show. We are the show, Kenny. It's what happens when I've just noticed that Chris Gibson has gifted another 50 memberships, and it's here we go again, Kenny. It was this time last week. Thank you so much, Chris. Start as you mean to go on. Thank you, Chris. That's going to take us probably over 1,200 members, which is incredible. Thank you very much, Chris. We really appreciate it. These things always kind of throw me a wee bit, the generosity of people, when you catch a comment out the corner of your eye, it takes your train of thought. But what I would say, Kenny, is that this is one of these ones you don't want to start getting, reading too much into it. You don't want to, overly talk things up or that. But what I would say is, and all I really want to say about it is a good thing. For me, it sets early feel-good factors to the football club. It gets into winning habits. We're scoring some goals. I wonder the formation of the old rigid 4-4-2. Does that give you a wee idea of what he's thinking? And first, and more importantly, it gets us off to a good start because, as I said, I always remember, see under Alex McAlister when we were flying in pre-season, that we always started well. And when we didn't have a good pre-season, it often spilled into the kind of seasons that we were about to have. So people say it doesn't mean much, and I know it doesn't mean much, but Kenny, it does set good habits, and I'm pleased about that. 5-1, bounce game, whatever. We don't know much about the goals other than two Romans ran past everyone on the field and scored from 80 yards. So, I mean, that's a given for the best left-back going, isn't it? But in all truthfulness, it's good to get these goals in, 5 different scorers, etc., etc. It's a good thing.
It's about setting the tone, Stevie. As I say, for Derek McInnes, it is literally about that. It's about, this is what I want from you. He'll be able to sit there, stand there on the touchline, and if it's not working, take them aside. Listen, this is what I want from you. And it is just laying the foundations for next season, Stevie. That is all it is. And I agree, it in the grand scheme of things, it means absolutely nothing. Colin Kerr doing it again, as he did last week also. Mad. And thank you very much, Colin. And the situation that Rangers are in, we're going to have a huge turnover, Stevie. So it is going to be difficult for Derek McInnes to get his point across. So the quicker he can get them onto the pitch like this and start to tweak, everything that he has to, it makes sense. And you're right, in the grand scheme of things, it isn't an important result. Of course it isn't. But it is one of those things that allows the manager to implement his ideas and start taking this club and this team forward and get his, as I say, it's his message and getting it across that's more important. And you're right, getting the 5 goals, 5 different goal scorers, couple, a few of them for the defenders. It's great, actually. It shows you that they're getting up and down the park. So I'm being honest here. I know nothing about it apart from what I read on the Rangers Review. I don't know anything about it apart from that. So I'm a little bit ignorant of exactly how it went and anything like that. I've got to be honest. However, it's good to see, as you say, most importantly, it's the scoring goals that matters, because you know as well as I do at times over the last couple of years, that has been the biggest problem for us is taking their chances and keeping them out at the back. So, yeah, good. That's all I can say. Good.
Yeah, I agree with you. As I said, it's not like we can have an in-depth discussion about anything. I haven't heard anything at all about how the goals were. Maybe they'll pop up at some point, Kenny. But big news this evening. Jim McAlister returns as kitman to Rangers Football Club. That's in its closing stages, reported by Chris Jack on the Rangers Review. Another fantastic Rangers man returning to the football club. Yes, there's been some things that have happened with Jim. He was treated very poorly. He was put out the football club, and we were talking about this a year ago, Kenny. It probably seems like we were talking about it 2 years ago, but we're getting the right people around our football club. At this rate, Kenny, when we score a goal, I won't be surprised to hear number 1 platoon belting out the tannoy, the way we're going with the staunchness that's returning. But listen, no, in all honesty, you can't have too many Rangers men, in my opinion. Jim was schooled by the very best on how to do that job. He was loved by the players, I think. And Jim's a very good guy. I'm delighted that Jim McAlister is coming back to the football club. It's not about staunchness, as we joke about it. And I said this last week. It's about having the right people in the football club that care about Rangers, that want the very best, that will drive standards. Jim will drive standards the way Jimmy taught him. Jimmy drove standards. Jimmy used to have a laugh and joke with the players. And I remember, hearing so many stories about Jimmy from guys like Chris Boyd and stuff like that, and how they would have a giggle together and everything else. Well, Jim's that same sort of character. So I'm delighted Jim's back. I think it's good for the football club. It's good for the feel-good factor. I think a lot of the players will really respond to having that. Jim knows what it's all about. He knows and loves the football club as well. So absolutely delighted to have Jim back. And as I said, you start to feel an identity returning to your football club. I don't need everybody to be staunch. I just need everybody to understand what Rangers means to me and what it means to you and what it should mean to everybody. I want the players going in on Monday morning and I need to go and ask for stuff. Christ, I can't go in and see Jim after that performance at the weekend, just the way they did with Jimmy. I want that. I want players understanding what Rangers Football Club means to everyone. So, with regards to Jim coming back, fantastic for me.
Yeah, absolutely agree on that. As far as I'm aware, this is Jim Gillespie's doing more than anything else. He's the one that's wanted this to happen, which shows you that, again, as a CEO who's been down at St Mirren and stuff like that over the last few years, Stevie, he's been taking an interest in what's been going on at Rangers, and he's probably not liked it from a distance, what happened with Jim. And that story, but we're not going to go over it here, but that story about what happened to Jim McAlister is a long one, and it's a well-known one, and we don't need to go over it again, but he was done the dirty on, actually, in my opinion, and to a certain degree. And I know the players stuck up for him, and I know certain others didn't. And even the likes at this point last year, Stevie, that people were wanting them back then. And Patrick Stewart kiboshed this last year. It was him that turned around and said he didn't want that to happen, which shows you that. And again, I'm not talking about what's happened before. I'm more talking about what's happening at this minute in time with Jim Gillespie, Derek McInnes, and knowledge of what's required here. And I'll reiterate this again, that you're right. It's not just about staunchness or Rangers men or whatever. They have to be good at their job. They have to be the best that we can get. And if the best that we can get are Rangers men, then that is an absolute certainty that you want these guys at your football club, particularly guys like Jim Gillespie, Jim McAlister, Derek McInnes, all these guys. Alan McGregor's another. we know can do the job that they're being handed. So it's great for me. And I this is a long time coming for me, because the whole thing with Jim McAlister was not, it just didn't sit comfortably with me at all. I was very uneasy about it all, and I didn't like much of what I heard about it. So absolutely delighted about that, mate. I really am.
Yeah, I would agree. As we said, it's not about the staunchness. It's not about that. It's about having people that understand what the football club is about, driving the standards of the football club. And by standards, I mean Rangers wanting to win every single week, and that's all that really matters. And having an understanding, because look, let's be honest with it. And I wouldn't have told you at the time because I didn't want to say anything against Danny Rule, and I didn't want to be the person that kind of said. And a lot of people said it. Maybe I should have. We can't be a football team that goes to Motherwell and draws 1-1 and be, well, do you know what? It might be a good result and we might enjoy that at the end of the season, when really it was against 10 men and we had 4 minutes left, winning 1-0, and we're bringing on defenders against 10 men. These sort of things shouldn't happen. And I think that maybe there's a misunderstanding of Rangers' requirements in recent years. And see, the thing is as well, Kenny, we've done things in a certain way for a number of years now and it hasn't worked. What's the harm in trying to get people around the football club who understand it and completely realise what Rangers means to people and what it means to them as well?
Well, we've tried, exactly what you're saying there is absolutely right. We've tried just about everything else, and that is where we have sat and talked about it on here for the last few weeks, that we have lost our identity to a certain degree. And I think Jim Gillespie, being that guy that is probably sitting here now at this minute in time, if you're being if you put yourself in Jim Gillespie's shoes here at this minute in time, he's probably in his dream job at this minute in time, Stevie, where he's looking at it saying, this is the job I've wanted for years, and I'm going to make sure that I make this work. As a Rangers man, as a Rangers season ticket holder previously, Stevie, he knows exactly what we are all about. And I'm all for that. I'm actually delighted about the way that we're going about this, because I've been saying since 4 Lads started that I genuinely do feel that we've lost our way a little bit in terms of even Danny Rule last week was talking about Salzburg, where he is, Stevie, and he's talking about how they have this way of playing football, and he was trying to do that at Rangers. We have a way of doing things at Rangers. We've just lost our way. And if Jim Gillespie is the man that is going to appoint Derek McInnes first and foremost and get that football side of it back to where we feel that we're comfortable as supporters, inside the club, the staff, everybody's comfortable with what's going on, and the fact that there is real Rangers people right throughout the club, it can only be a good thing. And we'll get back to where we used to be, Stevie, because let's not bullshit other bullshitters here. We have won 1 league title in 15 years. We've won 3 trophies in that time, Stevie. It isn't good enough. We have to start being successful, because I can't speak for anybody else, but I can speak for that. I am getting pissed off watching Rangers at times these days. I am. You're just watching it, giving it. What am I watching at times, Stevie? Where you know that is not conducive to getting good results or getting a streak of results that's going to put you challenging. You know that there's just too many incidences of not being particularly good, where, as you say, the people behind the scenes are going to drive that level up and those standards higher, so that the players that are coming here, the younger lads, the boys from aren't from Scotland, they are going to get it into their heads that that's not acceptable. So if they walk off and they've been a bit half-assed and they've lost a goal and they've dropped 2 points, and you've got a bunch of, a few kids there that are a few players there, I'll rephrase that, a few players there that don't seem particularly bothered about that. Trust me, they're going to get that. And I do get that feeling that over the last few years we have lost that where even our captain is well documented previously, Stevie, with some of the stuff that he'd said in programmes and some of the stuff he said in interviews, and we haven't liked it. And we have to get back to that the demand is to win every single week. That's the demand. That's the expectation. Get used to it, because if you don't, you shouldn't be at our club very long. It is that simple. So that's kind of where I am with it, and I'm delighted with this. I really am.
Yeah, same here. More talk on the staff, Kenny, that Scott Fry will move on and Rangers will look to replace him. I don't think that's been announced anywhere. Chris hints at it again in that article with when he talks about Jim. He's suggesting that Rangers are looking for a replacement. That's maybe why there's been no official announcement. As expected, Scott Fry will go down to Birmingham. So that Rangers will. So it's kind of hinting that Rangers will look to replace him. We do know that the boy that Derek worked with at Hearts went to Celtic. So, and Hearts had a really good set piece kind of record, didn't they? So that's a bit of a coup for Celtic. And if you ask me, that they've done well to get him. So it kind of scuppers us a wee bit. I thought Scott Fry done a good job, especially at the very start, and then everything seemed to go a bit stale, just like everything at Rangers at that point. So I do think it's a good idea. Maybe just go and tap Arsenal. You know, Mikel, you've won the league, so can we get your set piece guy? That would be nice. Unrealistic, but nice. Kenny, do you feel it's a position we have to go and strengthen in? I do. I think it's something that we should go and do.
Well, that's the reason I added it for tonight, Stevie, is because we had discussed this last week, and I had said that I expected Derek McInnes to not do that. I kind of thought he would have coaches that would be able to do that, but no, it is being hinted by Chris, your mate Chris, there that we are actually seeking a replacement. So that's interesting, and I don't mind it. Again, as I say, I don't have an issue with that at all. I think. As I think it was Amrit that said it last week, it's the small percentages, or it might have been you, I can't remember. I think it was you thinking about it that said that even that 1 or 2% makes a difference. So yeah, I don't mind it at all. And if it's what Derek McInnes wants, then Derek McInnes should get it. That's the way I see it. You back your man to the hilt. We're the one that brought him in. You have to give him the tools to do the job. And if he wants a set piece coach, go and get him one.
Chris, a £50 donation to say this. Chris, you don't need to do that. Just honestly, mate, put your comment up. We'll get it up. It's not about being staunch. It's about acting properly as an institution, which we are. TAV needs a testimonial as well. 10-year service needs to be acknowledged. Okay, we will revisit this. And no problem with doing that, Kenny. We said it at the time, it was an argument and a fight that Danny Rowe didn't need to do. We should honour James Tavernier. Not that James Tavernier was perfect that night either, but I'm not wanting to go down the he did. I think as captain and head coach of Rangers, both of them should have been, should have organised it a bit better. I think the natural thing is to wait and Rangers play Leeds. That's James Tavernier's team. You know, there's the obvious link there. I think that if you leave it a bit of time and say we did it this time next summer, any bit of resentment towards James Tavernier will have gone, because there is a bit of ill feeling. It's not like James Tavernier is completely, over on every Rangers supporter. I'm not being unfair in saying that. There is a lot of resentment towards him. But if you give it a year, Rangers have a successful year under Derek McInnes, that might be the right time next summer to award James Tavernier with the right kind of send-off and the right kind of thanks for his service. 10-year service does need to be acknowledged, I agree, especially with the level of contribution and stats and all that kind of stuff that James Tavernier had. So I don't want to get into the argument of he should have won more and is he a legend and all that. I think we've done that to death, and everybody's got their own opinion and nobody's opinion is wrong. But on this, Kenny, I do think Chris is right.
I think it needs acknowledged, whether it's with a testimonial, I don't know, because the testimonial nowadays tends to be a testimonial year. There's loads of events. If it's just one game, I can understand it.
An
I don't know.
appreciation game or such like then?
Yeah, no, this is what I was going to say. I genuinely don't have any issue with acknowledging James Tavernier's service. I genuinely feel there was faults on both sides, but predominantly I feel that Danny Rule as the head coach should have figured this out for himself, because it's what I would have done, even just on an instant, thought, 2-minute thought process about it is you start him, you can take him off if you need be, and he's out your hair in 5 days. It is that simple. He's gone, and you don't have to worry about it. And you allow the man that's been there for 10 years the privilege, the honour of leading his team out one last time. For whatever reason, Danny Rule didn't particularly want to do that, and we understand. Well, we kind of know why, but just a breakdown in a relationship, a breakdown in communication. And Chris is right. I do feel that it is about acting properly as an institution, as he writes there, and it is about doing that properly. And I have no doubt that over time, that something will happen for James Tavernier, and I don't have an issue with that at all. As I say, just for me at this moment in time, when you start hearing about testimonials these days, a testimonial used to be a game, a wee night and a dinner, and that was it. Now it's a whole year, and there's a whole host of events. Whether Rangers can commit to that, I don't quite know, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, it'll sort itself out. Will it be a testimonial? Will it just be a send-off? Who knows, right? Anyway, let's move on. I can see people getting all irate and everything else in the chat. It's not meant to do that. Right, Kenny, Jack Butland on TalkSport this morning, talking again about Rangers brilliantly, may I add. Leaving is bittersweet. Didn't know a fortnight ago when he was previously on TalkSport that he was heading to Hull. Quote, letting go, I don't think you can when you've been at a club like Rangers. You don't really let go. It's been really tough. I never be far from it. Fully enjoyed the last 3 years. It's been a huge part of my career, and one that I'm going to be very grateful for having that opportunity to be part of. Bittersweet, sad to leave, really sad to leave, but excited about the opportunity of going to Hull. Again, continues to speak very well about the football club. Somebody that will probably be like Jermaine Defoe in coming years when people ask him what's it like at Rangers and stuff like that. Say what you want about Jack Butland, and we all said, a lot about Jack Butland, but he's a very, very classy man.
Incredible. I actually was on my way into work, and I was actually going down your way and realised that the roundabout down your way was closed and had to double back and do all sorts of nonsense. And then stupid old me proceeded to do it on the way home. I'd forgotten that roundabout was shut again. So it felt like an arse. But it was just at that point that he actually come on to TalkSport, and I was sitting listening to the interview, and he was talking about Jordan Pickford, but I think it was Gabby Lahore it was that actually said to him about, what are you doing? You said he didn't mention this a fortnight ago that you were coming back down the road, and he said, I didn't know a fortnight ago, genuinely. He says it all happened very quickly. And those, again, just listening to him, you can actually almost hear the emotion in his voice. He's just got a real soft spot for our football club, and I have nothing but admiration for Jack Butland. I've said it since the day I knew he was signing for us, that he'd do a job for us. Now, has he been without fault? No. But I'll tell you what, you're absolutely spot on with your comparison with Jermaine Defoe. He'll be one of those guys that's played and worked with so many people in the game down south over the years, Stevie, that he'll be a go-to in terms of, Rangers are kind of interested, and he'll tell them to get right up the road and don't miss the opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime, and it's the way he actually said that it'll never leave him. The club will never leave him. That's lovely to hear as a Rangers supporter, that you know, our club's impacted him and his kids and his family and his wife the way that it has. It's wonderful for us, and it makes me feel great about being a Rangers fan that you can impact other people's lives in that manner. It's good.
Yeah, a couple other bits and pieces before we start talking about transfer chatter. Kenny, a little bit of World Cup chat. Telo Asgard, Norway beat Brazil last night. I said that when you have a world class player like Erling Haaland, I think that you've got a chance in any game. Like Messi for Argentina, people were saying that Argentina maybe aren't the team they were, and when you've got Messi, you've always got a chance. Haaland last night, I don't know if you've seen the footage of him before the header, and he's kind of wandering about, doesn't look interested, and then bang, the moment it comes, he's away. Reminds me a wee bit of Ruud van Nistelrooy that way. He used to be the master, Nistelrooy, of just being not in a game. He used to be offside, and then he would just come back and bang, alive, balls in the net. Norway obviously will play England. Just that'll be a real good chance for both teams, I think, to go through. I didn't expect them to beat Brazil. I must admit, when I went out the house at 60 minutes, it was all Brazil. They just went through. They missed the chance. They just went wide. But the biggest controversy, Kenny, Donald Trump has interfered and managed to get a red card rescinded and everything else. And geez, oh man, that's a precedent that we don't want to be setting, because all of a sudden we know exactly who'll be asking for things in Scotland and most likely getting them. But it's all turned into a bit of a farce, isn't it?
Yes. First of all, I thought you were going to use the words world class and Telo Asgard in the same sentence, and I kind of nearly went chalk white. But you mentioned Big Haaland. But listen, it's one of those things. I have actually been saying the last couple of days that I've got a sneaky feeling that Norway will cause them a lot of bother. Did I expect them to knock them out? Not necessarily. On Telo Asgard, that's a great experience for him. He's already had minutes at this tournament, but it's a wonderful experience. Nico Raskin tonight is on later on, isn't he? And he might find himself in the quarterfinals as well. And you'd have two players at the World Cup quarterfinals, Stevie. It'd be quite nuts. On the Infantino thing, I mean, FIFA is FIFA. That's all I'm going to say. It's Donald Trump turning around and as a president or as a politician asking, FIFA for anything. I mean, Infantino should be just do the right thing and say, yeah, put the phone down. It's bollocks, mate. But what I will say about all of this is we need to understand this, and we need to remember how much of a basket case FIFA this World Cup is being at this minute in time. Ronaldo gets sent off in the final qualifier, and they suspended that. And because they suspended that, Argentina had Otamendi's suspension suspended. And then Qatar had one of their players suspended. And somebody, I can't even remember, 5 of them who should have been suspended for at least one match, some 2 and 3, all had their suspensions suspended. And now you see this. And I find it quite incredible that you've got a guy like Donald Trump who's a moron, right? He's an absolute moron, turning around and telling us, I know the game and that's not a foul. Well, I'll tell you what, it actually is a foul. And yeah, it's a half red card, mate, but by the letter of the law, it's a red card. And if I'm Belgium, I'm not letting that go. And I noticed UEFA coming out and saying that it's a breach of their own statutes. It's incredible. And this won't lie down. This won't die. This will carry on because you just cannot be doing this kind of stuff. It's insane. And it's either a red card and you miss the next game, or you appeal it and you get off with it. You don't suspend it for a year. What is going on in the game? It's just, but it's. I'm going to be very, very, very careful about the way I say it. It's FIFA we're dealing with, so nothing should surprise us.
Yeah, I'm not sure if FIFA are going to be watching Four Lads Had a Dream. They should be, but we all know that there's going to be
Even mentioning it will flag up, mate. Watch.
there's got a lot of people have made a lot of money out this summer. That's for sure. That's all I'm going to say. Birmingham City have announced Scott Fry's appointment. Bang on, me and Kenny wondering why it hadn't been announced. They have announced it. So Scott Fry does join Birmingham. Good luck to him. I will miss him rushing out to the edge of the technical area to give our players advice on how to throw the ball at the halfway line. So yeah, let's just get rid of that comment. No room for that push. Right, Kenny, transfers are always hot topic. There seems to be, in fact, no, not going to go to transfers quite yet. This is actually very big news. 16-year-old Luka Rankin has signed a 3-year deal with Rangers. You might know that name, and you would be right to know that name. You may remember the famous squiggler, John Rankin of Hibernian, battered in a couple against Celtic. Very big goal against Celtic, actually, in a 2-1 win for Hibs, I think, on the way to Rangers winning the title under Watersmith. And I actually heard a couple of weeks ago, from somebody that knew that he was signing a deal and Rangers were going to be appointing John Rankin in amongst the youth academy somewhere, which I thought was interesting. I wouldn't have any problem with John Rankin teaching the kids how to shoot a ball. That boy could kick it, that's for sure. But again, Kenny, it's a good sign for Rangers. Another young lad signing on. And you know, with Kyle Glasgow and Austin, young Scally as well, it's all good sign for us, and everything going in the right direction youth-wise. And the young boy Rankin, from what I hear, he's very promising. Again, a load of English clubs in for him and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good news. And as you say, with young Ashton Scally, who our new sponsor Elite here has got a connection with, he knows him very, very, very well. And Kyle Glasgow, this is good because what we're managing to do on a day where I've noticed that Celtic have lost one of their players to Liverpool, my 16-year-old captain of Scotland. I couldn't tell you his name, I can't remember, but they've lost one of their young players who's went down to Liverpool. We're managing to keep ours, so it's when I say it's good news, what I mean is that whatever it is that Rangers are enticing these kids with, whether it's an absolute definitive route to the pathway to get into the first team, it can only be good for us, Stevie. Getting the best young talent and nurturing it and making sure it progresses is, I beg your pardon, it's vitally important for us because I've said it on here before. It's one of the things that has irritated me about Rangers for the last 25, 30 years, Stevie, is that we pay lip service to their youth football. And I genuinely mean that. I just don't think we invest enough time, effort in the promise that these kids have. And I know it's very, very, very difficult when you've got a top player that you're going to have to pay perhaps more than you want to for a 16-year-old, because if you don't, they are going to go down south and things like that, Stevie. However, I think it's vital that we have that system in place, that we can look at bringing one or two of these young kids in every single year. So the fact, but the fact that we've got three managed to sign over the summer here, all 16, all highly talented, all highly rated and highly quoted, is brilliant for us. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up just in a wee second. I don't know if somebody can tell me in the comments if we've officially announced it or if I've missed it or whatever. But people are saying about Raith Rovers being replaced as the kind of one of the teams that Rangers had the academy. I actually read last night that Rangers were talking to Queen's Park about them replacing Raith Rovers as being their kind of feeder team. I don't mind the young kids signing deals and that. What I don't want, and I was very clear about the whole kind of Bailey Rice signing another deal, I don't want these guys being stagnated. And, you know, if we've got a chance to send them out to play men's football, 16, 17, whatever age, get them out. And use these link-ups. Queen's Park are obviously a local side to us, Kenny. We could be sending these boys there, still training with us and sending them a couple of days a week, still keeping an eye on them. And that's something that we should be doing.
Yeah, I did read that literally about 15 minutes before we come on, so I didn't add it. That it was in the Jim McAlister article that I read from Chris.
It was me that told Chris about it this afternoon, so he's getting chinned about it.
You didn't tell me about it. I only read it off of Chris. That's what I'm saying. About the Raith Rovers stuff. He mentions it in that it looks as if it's going to be the tie is going to get disconnected basically, and we're going to look elsewhere. And you're saying Queen's Park, which makes much more sense to me. Queen's Park, Partick Thistle, clubs like that where they're nice and local and you can keep an eye is perfect for us, isn't it?
I would certainly think so. Paul and Seal done really well down at Raith Rovers last year. Be interesting to see what happens to him. But him being 20 as well, I think that comes the age where we need to make decisions about these boys and stuff like that. Kenny, back to your brilliant agenda. Let's talk transfers. Rangers have offered 3.7 million for Partizan Belgrade's 20-year-old captain Vanja Dragojevic. I'm just going to call him Drago if he does turn up here. Partizan want closer to £5 million. Serbian international at 20, 2 caps for them. Captain of Partizan. He's a sitting midfielder, that proper number 6 we've been looking for about 1900 years. What do you make of this one? Don't know very much about him at all.
The very fact that he's 20, he's a captain, he's an international player already is promising. A budget or a price that's well within our budget. We're looking for that, aren't we? And we're crying out for that actual specialised position, a player that is specialised in that position. So I don't mind that at all, mate. I'm not going to pretend that I've seen huge amounts of him. I'm just never going to do that on here. But I have watched a few videos or YouTube reels, and this boy can pass a ball, that's for sure. Everything that I've seen, he wants to get his head up and play forward. He's got a tackle in him. He's got distribution's fine. Again, as I say, it's a YouTube reel, so you can't read into it because they don't show you the bad bits. So you can't really comment on it in that way, but it looks as if he's got something about him, that's for sure. However, I'll temper that by explaining yet again that it's a YouTube reel, therefore you don't see the flaws in anybody's game in a YouTube reel, so we'll wait and see. But as I say, at that price, the club is at, you'll no pressure, Stevie. Partizan are a big club in a big city. You know, we're 2-club city. You'll know all that, so I don't think anything like an Old Firm game or anything like that's going to phase them. Put it that way. So we'll wait and see where that goes.
Pissing myself laughing because this is how much my life has actually changed. When we were linked with all these players and that, I used to immediately go on YouTube and look to see if we could figure out what type of player these were and if they were going to be good. Pamela's really into astrology, like really into it. So you know, because I've talked to you about this before. And she went through, we had this big, massive discussion about the squad last time, and she went through them all and she was able to tell you what their chart was and all the stuff, right? And she would be like, this guy, he's not good, is he? Because he's weak, he's not showing determination. And she gets it right all the time. So now if we're linked with a player, I don't go into YouTube, I just text her the guy's name and his date of birth. And I'm like, is this guy going to be good? Like, and she tells us. So Shankland, going to be brilliant because he's got all the energies and all that sort of nonsense that they talk about and all that. So this is it, Kerry. I've changed now. I'm not into YouTube videos and all that. I just need their date of birth and their name, and I figure out if they're going to be good. Do you know how you get all these reels and they come up and say, don't talk to women that ask you what time you were born and all that kind of stuff? Well, I did talk to one. And this is what happens. But it's honestly, it was fascinating. She got it all right. We were talking about players and talking about Butland and all that, and she was like, "That means that he has concentration issues and all that." And I was just like, "Fucking hell!" So, aye, it's quite interesting. So what we need, Kenny, is a team full of Scorpio rising. I don't know what that means, but that's what we need. And that's apparently what Shankland is. Mikey Moore's one of them. So is Ant-Man, and so is a couple of other things. So, yeah, there you go. So I don't bother about YouTube reels anymore. I just need your date of birth, what time you were born, and your name. And I'll tell you if you're going to be good for Rangers.
Don't want to be a prick, mate, but I'll stick to the YouTube reels, okay?
There we go. Look, we already know he's a Leo son. So that's what Partizan Belgrade, Vanja Dragicevic is going to be. So there you go. I don't bother about YouTube reels anymore. Just tell me if he's going to be good by what his star sign is and everything else. Kenny, we talked about this a long time ago on this podcast. It's probably, that is why I like Ant-Man. I told you there was something fucking good about him. It turns out he is good, but he's just not shown it yet. Kenny, we talked about this ages ago about Connor Barron being linked with Bologna. And once again, that's kind of reared its head over the course of the weekend. People are talking about that might be an avenue for, wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't mention Lewis Ferguson for the 800th time. Been rumoured for a long time that Bologna have been looking at him. They've been kind of starting to break over there. I think, see if you bring in somebody like Dragicevic and you brought in Dan Neil already, I don't think there's much room for Connor Barron. And I like Connor Barron, but I don't think Connor Barron is a first-team Rangers player at this moment in time. If he can show that level of consistency before his injury, yes, I think so. But again, here's the thing. Diamande, Chikwani, Barron, Raskin, they're all so similar. Would you swap it up a bit to get somebody different in? The answer probably is yes, even though I would be sad to see Barron go. I would be willing to deal there if we could get in somebody else. We need an 8. Lewis Ferguson is the one, isn't he? I mean, of course, everyone's going to talk about him. I think he's perfect for what we need. That in between, somebody that can put in the guile, but also break forward, score goals. Leadership would be captain. I think that if Bologna were interested in Barron, I think that would help kind of, how do you say it, oil the wheels in motion or whatever it is to help that deal happen.
It was on the Four Lads chat a few weeks ago. I'm saying Scotty Patterson mentioned that he had heard that was an absolute cert that Bologna were interested. It could have been Dougie, can't remember, but it was one of the lads I think on the Sunday show that mentioned it, and they had heard that on a decent authority apparently. But this is not news, as you say. Connor Barron being linked to Bologna is about 2 years old now, isn't it? He's getting linked just about every transfer window. I'm with you on the. It's quite clear that what Derek McInnes and the club himself, because Derek McInnes has admitted that a lot of the deals that are in place are quite far down the line and stuff like that. He's got to ratify them, okay them, but when he's looking at them, he's saying, yeah. I think that what you've got there is a scenario that they just want almost like a fresh broom sweeping out the place to a certain degree, Stevie. They want, they've identified weaknesses in areas, and I think they've decided that midfield is definitely one of them that needs an absolute overhaul. And I don't disagree with the club or Derek McInnes or whoever it is, Dan Purdy, that are making the decisions on it, because we've said it all season last season. We're still saying it at this minute in time. You've just said it yourself 2 minutes ago, mate, that they're all so much like each other. They're very much of a muchness when it comes to the way they play and what they do, that you do need to change it up. You need specialised players in specialised positions. You need a 6, you need 2 8s, you want a 10. You want cover for those. And if I'm being honest, Nico Raskin is the one that I would be kind of not upset to see go, but disappointed to see go, because I think the potential in Nico Raskin is just phenomenal. We're seeing it even at this World Cup. Now, he's not starting every game. He started 1 or 2, but when he's coming on, he's making a huge impact in that Belgium team. He absolutely turned the game, I thought, the other night. are we looking at a scenario where perhaps we know one or two of them are definitely out the window? They're leaving in this window, I beg your pardon. And we're looking to identify Connor Barron could be one of them, mate, that they probably know he's been here 2 years now, never been able to hold down a place. If clubs are genuinely interested, I don't think it would be too difficult to deal with. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's where I kind of see it with the majority of them.
Aye, I mean, listen, I probably feel the same about Mohamed Diamande, who at times looks an unbelievable player and then can look like a guy that just does not care the following week. I think that there needs to be some change in there. I spoke to death about Nico Raskin, and I can't be arsed with everybody going on about it and everything else again. If the deal's right for Rangers, we'll probably do a deal. I think Mohamed Diamande would be one that I would go to move out as well. If you're getting Dan Neil in, you probably don't need Barron or Diamande, so one of them would be going anyway. Be interesting. What would you rate, or how much would you be looking for Connor Barron, Kenny?
Well, I would actually wouldn't be surprised if Rangers are looking at about £3 million for him, Stevie. People might turn and say, "Oh, you're overreaching." I don't think you are. I think Rangers are. Since the new owners have come in, they've just turned around and put a valuation on a player, and it's been quite realistic in the simple way that they've just turned and said, "Well, if you don't pay it, you're not getting them." We've seen it last year with guys like Cyril Dessers, where they waited and waited and waited till they got what they wanted. And I would think £3.5 million is probably what they would take. I don't think they'd take much less than that. Put it that way.
Yeah. I think that I would be somewhere. I think probably 4.5 million for Connor Barron is where I am, and that's if we're selling them to Italy. Then I think that's what I'm looking for. It's a difficult one. Could it be like 10 million plus Barron for Ferguson? It's something like that would be look, cards on the table. I want Lewis Ferguson.
That would be perfect, wouldn't it?
Well, look, cards on the table. I want Lewis Ferguson. I want Lewis Ferguson to captain the football club next year. I think he's ideal for it. Really impressed by his Scotland performances. We don't have an 8. I think he's an 8. I think the way Derek McInnes talks about him, I think everything about it is just perfect. It's nothing to do with people going about this is the Barry Ferguson thing and stuff like that. Listen, I loved Barry Ferguson. By far, Barry Ferguson is the best number 6, the best midfielder potentially that I've ever seen for Rangers. Genuinely, I don't think there's too many better than Barry Ferguson. Does it affect my opinion on Lewis Ferguson? No, it doesn't, because Derek, by the way, was at a point when he was younger, every bit as good as Barry, with the potential to be going all the way. So is it anything to do with them boys? No, it's not. But from what I've seen of Lewis Ferguson in Scotland, anyone that goes over to Serie A and gets midfielder of the year and all that, let's do our very best to get Lewis Ferguson back here. You get that extra 10% because he's coming back to play for Rangers. I think the deal's doable. We just need to wait to see what other things fall in place. I do think Nico Raskin will leave Rangers. I think the time's right for everybody. I think Nico will go. I think if there's interest in Mohamed Diamande, he'll go. I think Connor Barron most likely will go. I think that's how you'll mess. Toshi Chukwueze isn't going to go. And they'll probably see him as an 8 because I don't think he's 6. So I think Tochi Chukwueze would probably be somebody that would come in and out the team for a Lewis Ferguson type. You could have Dan Neil in there along with another 6. If you sold those 3, you would need to get somebody else in. So if we could freshen that midfield, because Kenny, I've spoken to you about a long time, the midfield hasn't worked for me in a very long time. I don't think it's been right. You cannot. I will go on to this and talk about it. I've said it loads of times. The way that midfield disintegrated after the split, they had all the game at Tynecastle and they passed it about 900 times back and forward and went nowhere with it. We need something different. And I've always felt, I've often spoke to Adam Thornton about the midfield and we've felt the same. Something needs to change in that. So, yeah, the midfield, Kenny, and midfield, couple of wingers, and then he can beef up the defence with maybe a left-sided defender, and we'll not be too far away from where we need to be. But it needs that. It needs, on paper now, I think they need the quality. They need the goals to come from somewhere from that middle to front bit, and going in between, like somebody to link the midfield and the forward line, and that. I think that's what we need to finish this off.
There's not enough creativity in that midfield, Stevie, that's for sure. You don't have a specialised, very, very good number 6. We've got a big pile of number 8s for me, that's what we've got. That all do a kind of similar job. But don't, Taylor Wascard's there that you could play as a 10, you could buy Rami, you could play as a 10. Mikey Moore last year, if he comes back up, you could play as a 10. But we need the creativity. We need somebody that can pass the ball through the eye of a needle. We need a box-to-box midfielder, somebody that can get up and down and progress play and dictate play. We don't have it, Stevie. Not Nico Raskin, for me, is better when he plays for Rangers. This is as a kind of number 8 and just does his job properly. But as I say, you can see it with Belgium. He's playing slightly to the right-hand side and he just moves it forward, and he's absolutely phenomenal at creating space with the passes, the pace of pass, or the area that he's playing into that allows other people to create other bits of space. He's brilliant at doing it, Stevie. However, I think he's been a victim of exactly what we're talking about over the last year or two about with Rangers, is that we've got too many players that are too similar to him. So he's trying to do too much a lot of the time. And he's trying to be that box-to-box. He's trying to be a number 10. He's trying to be a number 6. He's going in between the centre-halves. He's trying to do all of the jobs at the one time. And I think he's suffered a little bit for it in terms of his form at times. People forget last season. He came right onto a game at times last season, but the treatment he got off our previous head coach was nothing short of disgusting. And that must phase a young man. I mean, people are forgetting he's only, 25, 26, Nico. And to be treated like that is, I mean, I wouldn't like it, and I'm 56, mate. I'd have been livid. So fair play to the kid for managing to, work through what must have been a horrible time in his life. Never mind his just working career. In his life, to be treated like that, it was not pleasant. So it is one of those things, Stevie, when I look at Rangers in general, I wouldn't be averse to the entire midfield being looking totally different next year, and none of them being there, just because I want to see a new Rangers that's better than it has been over the last couple of years.
Yeah, that wouldn't be difficult. I think everybody just wants Rangers to be where they would be or should be. Kenny, thank you, my friend. Another fantastic show. There's 4,500 people watching this across all channels, which is absolutely unbelievably ridiculous. Thank you so much for all your support, Kenny. Great show. You managed again for the agenda to talk about things, to recap. Good win in the bounce game. Jim McAlister back at Rangers, and the transfer chat kind of continues. I hope we would bring in maybe another body or two before we go to Spain at the weekend. That's got to be the target. A couple of bounce games in Spain. It looks like we're playing St Etienne at Ibrox on the 22nd. That one's still to be confirmed, but when you go in to your basket online, it is sitting there. So Rangers, they're never far away from telling us inadvertently, aren't they? So St Etienne on the 22nd, West Ham on the 26th, our live show on the 24th. That could be an interesting couple of days for us, but dare I say it, Jim coming back, friendlies getting announced and things, it all looks like it's all coming together.
It does, and as I say, we've been back, Derek McInnes since last Thursday. It's 10 days or so now, mate, and things are beginning to take shape really rather quickly. That's what I like about this, that they're not arsing about with a lot of stuff here. They are literally, it is one of those very quickly, one of those things that Jim Gillespie, they do say that about CEOs, they'll take 100 days, don't they, They take that 3 months to sit there and figure out everything that's right and wrong and needs corrected and amended within the company. And then after 100 days, you start to see them start to implement things. And I think it looks very much like that at this minute in time, that we have a leader and a board that knows what he wants. He's brought his manager in who obviously will know exactly what he wants. And it's great news, Stevie. And I did notice, to finish off, that although you're complimenting the agenda, I've noticed you've worked from bottom to top there. You've went in reverse in the way I put it. So just to confuse me, I think.
I was going to say something there, but let's just move on and try and be grown-ups. Huge thanks to our sponsors, our very own Candid, Amrit's Ice Cream Shop. Thank you very much. Our new sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, we're delighted to have 3 new sponsors on board. 4 Lads will make a £6,000 investment into Rangers for advertising and to sponsor Kathy Hill once again for another year. Kathy, close friend of mine, and also the pod. So we are putting money back into Rangers Football Club, as well as being able to bring you all the coverage, which we hope is enjoyable. It's supposed to be rough, isn't it? It's supposed to be mates talking, because that's what we are. It's not always going to be perfect. Nobody's opinion is ever 100% right. I'm going to say loads of shite things over the course of this year. And that's what it's all about, because it's supposed to be something that people can enjoy and get involved in. So I really hope you do. Ladies and gentlemen, so huge thanks to Candid, our new sponsors at LBJ Consultants. Kenny's, pal, we're delighted to have on board Elite Scooter Scotland. Thank you so much. And our sponsors, CBD Oil Scotland. Please go onto their website. You can use the code 4Lads for a 30% discount. So go and check that out. If you do go and buy anything right now, you'll be entered into a competition to win hospitality tickets for the West Ham friendly game, Derek McInnes's first outing. So if you want to get involved in that, please go and check it out. Buy yourself some oils, gummies, or whatever else you want to. And I'm delighted also we're in association with Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. So there's a lot more to come for members, and there is 1,200 of you now. Mark Haitley's pod. Mark Haitley, that's not true. Mark Haitley's pod is actually on there, but this week's one is Mark Walters. Brilliant chat with Mark and Davey. If you want to go on and hear that, please do. For members, go and check that out. All I want to say before we end the show is that one was for my Uncle John, who will be very sadly missed. Ladies and gentlemen, take care. We'll be back Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, I think, Kenny. Will we go 7 o'clock? Is that Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm going out for my dinner, so we'll do 7, mate, yeah.
You're always out on a Wednesday. So, let's go for 7 o'clock on Wednesday, Kenny.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's really everything. Have a good couple of days, folk. Take care. We'll see you again on Wednesday. Bye for now. The 4 Lads Rangers podcast is sponsored by Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland, and Elite Scooter Scotland, in partnership with Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. 4 Lads podcast is delighted to be sponsored by CBD Oil Scotland. Get a massive 30% off now for all their gummies and their oils. Go and check them out. These help with things like stress, anxiety, sleep patterns, mood, depression, even stuff like fibromyalgia. Go and check them out, cbdoilscotland.com. Use the code 4Lads to get a massive 30% off. You enter right now and you'll be in the hospitality draw for tickets for Rangers versus West Ham, Derek McInnes's first game in charge, and you will get that opportunity not only to get 30% off, but you'll also be in the draw for hospitality tickets for West Ham. If you don't want to use the website, you can come into either shop here in Thornley Bank or in Kinnan Park. It's called Bits and Bongs. You go in there, use the code 4Lads, and you'll get a massive 30% off. We're delighted CBD Oil Scotland are sponsoring 4 Lads. check it out and go and help yourself to some oils, some gummies with a fantastic 30% off.